Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever in the world you are. You're watching me, Sandeep Unnithan of Chakra News, in conversation with Advaita Kala and Lieutenant General PR Ravi Shankar. Welcome. We are doing another of our discussions, and for those of you who are tuning in to Saturday, our apologies, we couldn't do it yesterday. So here we are live from Delhi, 9 a.m. Sunday morning. Indian Standard Time. Of course, General Shankar joins us from Chennai. Welcome. We're talking about Donald Trump's tariff wars on India. We will always be friends, Donald Trump said yesterday, to which Prime Minister Modi said he reciprocates, and he mentioned the global strategic partnership with the United States. General Shankar, is this what you predicted a week ago, that this is just a minor kerfuffle and things are going to be back to normal? You think the normalization process has begun? Has the off-ramp begun?
Yeah, thanks a lot, Sandeep. Good morning, Advaita and Sandeep, and great being on Sunday, and talking about Trump and his IT sector and our IT sector. Yeah, the reset is on. The MAGA plus MEGA, that started, like all good things.
Right.
The fundamental fact is that India and USA are too committed to each other. 25 years, the depth of this relationship is huge. Like last time also I said, you have a whole lot of defense deals going. And they have been going on now for 25 years. You can't undo them overnight.
Right.
Right? For
Right.
example, some your earliest deals, which were about that ANTPQ 37, which we got, it's still in service, and you're dependent on US for supplies and spares, and you paid for it. It's not something you're going to pay for it. It's all prepaid. Okay,
Right.
and so that has to go on. You can't just say because Lutnick spoke some crap that this doesn't happen. There's a Madras battalion already sitting in Alaska, right? And they're
Yeah, for
doing
the exercises.
exercises.
For the
Already
exercises. Right.
started.
Yeah.
Okay. So how, and then the next round of exercises, naval exercises are on.
Right.
Okay. So I think the guys who spoke out of turn, like Navarro and Lutnick and Scott Bessent, are more
Right.
trade and commerce oriented. They
Right.
didn't
Right.
have, um, a strategic orientation. And today in USA, there's a lot of blowback from the strategic community, which
Right.
is
Right.
one level higher. And I think the
Yes.
message has gone to Trump, and he's now
Right.
started, oh, everything will be okay. Yeah, I think things will be okay. It's a matter of time. But one thing, we lost trust.
That's right.
Trust
I
is
was going to
out.
ask you. Trust is
Yeah,
out of the window. Yeah.
out of the window. It has turned from a strategic partnership to a long-term relationship, downgraded. There's no
It's
more
been
a strategic
downgraded.
partnership. Yeah, I think the whole relationship is now from the partnership, it has gone down to a relationship. Whether it will go
Okay.
back to a partnership, whether it will become strategic is in the future. We have to do a complete reset of this. I
Right,
think
right.
I'll stop
Completely.
here and
I'll come to you, General Shankar, for that because there's another very interesting development that's just taken place in the last couple of hours about the partnership and whether the United States really needs India now the way it did in the past, in the Barack Obama years.
yeah, well,
That about the pivot to Asia and all of that. But Advaita, quick thoughts from you on this warming of relations, that thaw that happened over the last 24 hours, and this is my earlier point I keep making, that Vladimir Lenin's comment about, there are decades in which nothing happens, and then there are weeks in which decades happen. And here we're not talking of weeks, we're talking of hours. Literally, geopolitics is unfolding in front of our eyes in just a matter of hours and minutes. So while we might have been at each other's throats last week, in the last couple of hours, there seems to have been a thaw. Both countries are now started to speak. The Prime Minister responded. It's very unusual for the Prime Minister to respond to, an off comment that Trump made to reporters in the White House. But AK, Advaita, your thoughts on this?
Well, I joined Twitter because Trump was on it. This is good 15 years ago. He's highly entertaining. Now, the only problem is that he's also the US president. I didn't
Right.
anticipate he would be US president someday. I just thought he was this entertaining character in pop culture. But here we are. He's making decisions, he's influencing things because of the position he holds. And we have to just go along for the ride. I think I agree entirely that Trump is so unpredictable. You don't know what's going to happen next week. Today it's seeming really warm, but he may get triggered on Tuesday and do something to completely
Right.
reverse the feeling of warmth. So I don't
Right.
think we should kind of hold on to anything he says, good or bad, for too long. I think, and that's what the prime
Right.
minister has done by that strategic silence. I think
Right.
the prime minister has really, kind of pushed Trump into
Yeah.
coming out and being all warm and nice and all of that thing. It's that classic syndrome with the bully. You stand your
Right.
ground with the bully, you'll be fine. No matter how big the
Right.
bully is or how scary the bully is, that's what happens there. I think with Trump is, of course, he's very reactive as a person. He has a
Right.
big ego, and
Yes.
he just says whatever he wants. If you look at his press conferences, also he's rambling. Like he talk
Right.
about tech at one point, and then he'll suddenly be talking about the rose garden and how he's concretized it. So he jump from topic to topic, and it's a basically a flow of consciousness, right? And then the
Right.
others around him have to quickly scramble and cut back
Yeah,
and say, oh,
that point, Advaita, you made about the rambling. We were trying to make sense of that. What he started talking about India, and then he suddenly trails off to the rose garden where you could not stand without getting your feet wet. He's talking about him and Prime Minister Modi, and then he goes off to the rose garden and what a great job we've done. We've retiled the whole thing, and we've made this great again and stuff. And I was looking at it and I said, this looks like something out of Delhi Gymkhana Club, it's got that very Delhi Gymkhana kind of vibe. So, but yeah,
or
you're
it's
right.
yeah, it's I mean, I don't want to be ageist here, but you know how you've always had those relatives who drone on and on who are like of a certain age, and the
uh,
entire family indulge them, right? So I think with Trump on the global stage, it's pretty much become that. He drones on, and then we all indulge him, right? From the journalists in the room to his associates and aides to the rest of the world who's listening. We just wait for him to get to the point.
but have you seen his latest, Advaita, the post that he just put out on Truth Social? I love the smell of deportations in
No,
the
what
morning. Chicago's. He's made an apocalypse now kind of meme. It's unbelievable. That famous line, for those of you who are not familiar with this, because this movie is our time. Hamare Zamane ka picture hai, one of the greatest war movies ever made, Apocalypse Now, where you have this Colonel Kilgore, not Kilgore, I forget his name, but played by a fantastic Hollywood actor, and who's there in The Godfather. Oh God, I'm forgetting names. I'm Trump now. But he says he bombs an entire village with napalm. And he says, I love the smell of napalm in the morning. And Trump has put out a meme of him as that Colonel, what is his name? The Colonel in Apocalypse Now, who's absolutely insane. And you have the person over there thinking that, he's being sent to kill one colonel who's supposedly gone rogue. And here he's seeing the state's sanctioned rogue colonel who's, bombing villages and all. But I mean, for a US president to put out these kind of gifs and images, Chipocalypse Now is what he's calling it. His attack on Chicago. Chipocalypse Now. But this is unprecedented. This kind of politics by GIF and social media and Truth Social. What are our diplomats to make of it? I was at this a very, very engaging book discussion just a few days back. It had Mr. Jaidev Ranade, who's ex-RNEW, General Raj Shukla, who's a former colleague of General Shankar's. He and, of course, Mr. Sikri, a former ambassador to Kazakhstan and then Secretary West. And we had dinner after the event, and I was talking to them about, what sense you're making out of Trump and his tirades and all that. I think the sense that I got was, of course, exactly the sense that we have here, one of bewilderment. But the consensus was that, as General Shankar was saying, that this is actually a relationship between two countries. It's a partnership, and therefore you see that kind of very measured use of words from Delhi. We are not flying off the handle. We're not posting anything extraordinary. We're just, keep calm, steady, that kind of course that we are, driving. Because that relationship between India and the United States, you may have issues with it. Oh, they've, supply chain issues, or we have a mercurial US president and all that. But I think the consensus is that this is a relationship of the future. It is far too important to be held hostage by one president or his advisor or advisors or something like that. But before we come to the topic of IT, which is actually what we're talking about today, I want to ask General Shankar about this recent Department of Defense document that has just come out, General Shankar. Elbridge Colby is supposed to have authored that, where they're talking about focusing on homeland security and not the bigger pivot to Asia. They're not talking about containing China. They're not, that big picture that we got from the Obama administration, that huge pivot to Asia, because of which India became more important in containing China. Now they're saying, boss, homeland is priority. We need to look after the American homeland. You think that this fear that a lot of people in the strategic community had, that this, the G2, the group of two, that the US looks after the Western Hemisphere and China looks after the Eastern Hemisphere, that's actually coming true now?
I don't think so. If you see, Trump's tweet where he said we've lost India and Russia to the darkest, and of China and all that. China remains their number one adversary, competitor. What do you want? That is irrelevant. It remains number one. Two things. One is there is a sense that China is not as strong as it is made out,
right?
And it's right.
Despite the
Because
September 3rd parade.
That is spectacle. Okay.
Optics.
Optics, pure optics. If you fall for that, you're a fool.
Right.
I mean, I've been very blunt about it. Okay. All those guys who met at the SCO, what did they do? Nothing. They just gave a photo op. All that military parade is what? Nothing. Nothing new was shown. There's no new capability. In any case, none of their capabilities are proven. And none of those capabilities are deployed, incidentally. This is important. We had the Iran-Israel war. None was a single capability deployed to counter USA. There, nothing. Zero. Have they deployed any of their capabilities outside the South China Sea? Zero. So the projection is zero. The optics are huge. The projection is visual, not physical. Let's be very clear about that.
Right. So none of those capabilities the Chinese have shown are deployed.
Yeah. And now, one thing, Grant, forget about the Trump inconsistency and all that. So America has strengthened Japan, South Korea, Philippines, and Guam itself. And this happened even before Trump took charge. It started during the Biden's last 3 months, and it continued into the first 3 months of Trump without any let-up. They've strengthened that area. They can't get out. Now, no one talks today that Taiwan will be taken by force and all that easily. They don't talk. And plus, India has grown. India has started, spreading its tentacles. Now you're talking of India patrolling the Malacca Strait with Indonesia and Singapore, and this happened 2 days back. That means Malacca Strait is out of China's reach. Please understand the implications of what's happening. And you also gone across and done an exercise with Philippines, right, in the South China Sea. What could China do? Nothing. So there is a sense, right, at the larger level, and that's Elbridge Colby's story also, that China is not that much of a threat as it is, as it was made out. Plus the fact, if you remember last time also we discussed, there's a Trump and company have opened up the Central Asian axis. And that is why the Sergey Gore being envoyed to Central Asia, because Pakistan, Central Asia gives you the access to Russia, China, India, and Iran and Afghanistan simultaneously. So I mean, one should discount all these major issues and get sidetracked by these speeds, and all that nonsense. And mind you, where is China most vulnerable? Xinjiang and Tibet.
Right.
Okay, it is not in the east coast there. I mean, it's not in their rich Shanghai and that area. They are very strong there. They're weakest here.
Yeah.
So they are containing China. All this talk, all that is a different story. And that is why this quick flip back to India. The flip back to India, that optic of Xi Jinping, Putin, and Modi in one frame has done that trick. In 24 hours, the flip took place.
Right.
And it's too costly for them. Right? I also know there are two streams of thought. One says India is expendable. The other says India should be a long-term alliance. You're talking of a 10-year alliance and 5 pillars. And
Right.
that's come out in a foreign affairs article by who? Jake Sullivan and Kurt Campbell. Who are Jake Sullivan? Jake Sullivan, the previous NSA. Kurt Campbell is the guy whom Elbridge Colby replaced. Okay.
Right.
So
But
there's
he's
a
talking about
deep.
alliance. They're talking of an India-US alliance, but we've never had an alliance with anyone.
No. See, the point is they're talking that's where we should go. Also,
Right.
there are some guys who say India is expendable and you should do a one-to-one with China.
With China.
So you'll get both these. After all, it's a democracy, they will come out. But at the fundamental level, let me explain this thing to everyone. There is also a established fact that China has infiltrated USA quite a bit in the information space. Okay, there's no doubt about it, and they have. And there are reports that China might have already siphoned off a lot of information from entering
Right.
their information space.
Right.
So to that extent, their homeland is at risk already.
Okay.
I mean, so they have to consolidate the homeland. I think the fundamental idea of consolidating the homeland from external influences and the Monroe Doctrine, which he restarted by saying, I'll take over Panama Canal.
I was going to ask you about the Monroe Doctrine because, as we speak, there are something like 3 amphibious assault ships in the Caribbean off the coast of Venezuela.
So there is this on already. I mean, let's not have any doubts that and this was very evident and very, very pronounced the moment Trump took over. After all, he spoke of Canada, he spoke of Greenland, Panama, all these places, Mexico, and they're all issues of rare earths and all that they're looking at, very seriously.
Right.
So that is on.
Yes.
I mean, we have to also understand there's a major shift taking place in the way America is behaving strategically. Forget the optics.
Right.
Okay. They have no choice. If they spurn China for rare earths and critical minerals, they have to come to India. There's no other place they can go to. I'm making this statement ahead of time.
Right.
Please understand this, because this is where rare earths are in India. Of course, you don't have the high rare earths, but light rare earth elements are there plenty in India. Samarian is maximum in India. Okay.
Right.
So if you look at,
we haven't mined it yet.
No, we have not. No, mining, you don't need to mine. The problem is how to refine it. And refining is at a cost. Refining is at a cost. One is the cost of technology. The second is the cost of environment. It's going to be degrading. And that you can offset only by good environment. And that you need technology. And that technology is with Japan and USA. So that triangle, Japan, USA, and India have to be there if you want to offset the critical and rare earth minerals from China. And you have to have a say in Myanmar.
Right.
Please understand. Because Myanmar is the deposit. China doesn't have some of these rare earths. The deposits are in Myanmar. The battleground is Myanmar. And also don't forget the optics which happened in South Shanghai Cooperation SCO meet. The Myanmar junta chief met Mr. Modi on the sidelines.
Right.
Okay. So there are a lot of things happening. One thing is for sure, whatever the other optics are and all, please understand, till yesterday, the global power play was between Russia, China, and USA.
Right.
This SCO meet and whatever has happened, the fourth player has come to age. Whether
Right.
you like it or not, India is now a global player. It's no more,
Right.
it's a balancer. If USA wants to even take on Russia and China without India, they can't do it. Even if it wants China on its side, Russia on its side, it needs India. Even if it
Right.
wants to do a G2, even if it wants to do a G2 with China, it cannot ignore the Russia-India axis.
Right.
You look
Absolutely.
at it anyway, you look at it anyway, India is a big player today.
I'm going to
Simple.
ask Advaita that, Jan
Yeah,
Shankar.
go ahead.
Advaita, this Prime Minister Modi, of course, is another. I mean, he's not like Trump. He doesn't, tweet before he thinks. But do you think that he's kind of pulled off, a great social media coup with the way the pictures were constructed in the SCO, summit? His, impromptu summit with Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin and all those images that came out of Tianjin. You think that kind of played a role in what we are seeing now with President Trump kind of, dialing down on the aggression a bit and then talking of this thing? Because, the whole thing, as General Shankar said, is that India is too big to ignore. We don't have the economy of China, the manufacturing prowess of China, certainly not the economy of the United States, but India is a very, very important swing state. And I think that's what Prime Minister Modi emphasized in Tianjin. What are your thoughts on this?
Right. And one of my viewers has said that it was Marlon Brando who played Colonel Waters.
Yeah.
What you were looking for,
no.
Sandeep.
Okay, to interrupt. It was actually Robert Duvall who played this colonel. Not See, there are two colonels in Apocalypse Now. The crazy guy is Marlon Brando, who's Colonel Kurtz. He's a special forces colonel who's gone off his rockers and he's killing people. And therefore, Martin Sheen is sent to assassinate him. And along the way, he meets this other colonel who's completely off his rockers. And he's getting this surfer to surf in Da Nang or someplace in Vietnam, and he napalms an entire village. And he says that I am being sent to assassinate this colonel, but here is this state-sanctioned guy who's also off his rockers. So that was Robert Duvall.
Oh, okay.
Marlon
Okay.
was that guy. Yeah.
So that's sorted. That's sorted. Okay. That's been decided at least. So, okay. What was the question? I got caught up in your movie story.
No. The question is, Prime Minister Modi quietly playing this long game with the kind of visuals that came out of Tianjin, of him with Putin, with Xi, the kind of bonhomie that they shared. And I'm sure Trump was watching these images in real time. And, that kind of forced the United States to dial down on the aggression a bit and to say, listen, Modi is a good friend and, all of that. And therefore, that off-ramp. So that off-ramp was created through the Tianjin imagery.
Yes. See, I mean, I think, don't matter for Trump. Optics really matter. Like he's all. I'm here. Can you hear me? Sorry about that.
Yes, Advaita. We are aware that you're in Gurgaon and there are issues with the internet connection there. The seabed cables are in Gurgaon.
These days. Yeah.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Look at me doing all this big talk sitting in Gurgaon.
Yeah, because Gurgaon is underwater a lot of the time, most of the time. So we were talking about how Gurgaon needs seabed cables, and no ordinary internet cabling will do anymore.
It looks like the Houthis have landed up in Gurgaon to cut the undersea cables.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely have enough water for them to navigate through
Yeah.
to us. So yeah, so I think prime ministers become sort of the elderly statesman in the world,
Yes.
and I think he's playing that role very well. He's mature, he's affectionate, he's warm when he meets people, and people reach out to him. Macron just reached out to him about Ukraine,
Yes.
very publicly, acknowledging that India is very much a partner and Prime Minister Modi is very much a partner in that negotiation. People feel
Right.
comfortable with him. And that level of comfort isn't there with President Trump, Xi, or President Putin. So I think
Right.
Prime Minister, in that sense, brings a humane angle into the mix, and
Right.
also is a post-colonial society. So a lot of the global South, for example, looks up
Hmm.
to India and the things that we've achieved being a post-colonial society. A lot of the West, like President Macron, look at Prime Minister Modi as an elderly statesman, as somebody who's an elder and who has
Yeah.
a maturity and the restraint, which is so sorely lacking, because in global politics and global relationships, you need restraint. And
Right.
and Trump is the exact opposite of restraint. So someone like Prime Minister Modi then becomes a very valuable voice on the stage. And I think
Right.
he's leveraged that over the years. This is his 11th year in this position.
Yes.
So he's worked towards it. He's built it brick by brick. Remember when he first called Barack Obama Barack, and
Yes.
people were mocking him,
Yeah.
right? People were saying he's trying to get too familiar and it's America. And so what if it's America? He's older than Barack Obama. What is he going to
Yeah.
call him? So we had our own complexes about these things. But Prime Minister Modi's turned that around. And I think what you're going to increasingly see, I think General Shankar is absolutely right. We are the fourth player. But more importantly, we're the player that more and more countries are going to feel comfortable talking with, because A, we're not going to we're not going to bully them. B, we're not
Right.
going to put them into debt traps and exploit them.
Yeah.
So these two factors are essential. And that's why I'm not a big fan of the junta. I've lived in Myanmar. So in either case, they're the ones in charge there. So they meeting Prime Minister Modi is a good sign. It's a good sign because China is trying to make inroads into Myanmar. Remember, they also have an indigenous Chinese population, which is very
Yes.
pro-China.
Yeah. In the
So,
north. Yes.
it's very complicated. It's not just China being a foreign influence. There are Myanmaris or Burmese within Myanmar who are of Chinese origin. So
Right.
let's see how this works out.
Yeah, but Advaita, the point that you made is, Prime Minister Modi being the elder statesman, and I think that's also one reason why this clash actually happened, because Trump in his second term is gone kind of completely berserk. He's trying to get deals out of people. He calls them to the White House and he parades them like school children, and he talks down to them. And I think, as I was talking to Bharat Karnad a few days back, and he says the reason for this thing is the standoff between the India and the United States is that India did not bend to the US. Prime Minister Modi didn't allow Trump to take the win, as he called it, to say that I mediated between India and Pakistan, and this so-called nuclear flashpoint that he conjured up. And he says that he says that his anger was because Prime Minister Modi didn't acknowledge that fact, and that's the reason for this standoff as well. In addition to everything else that's going on in the United States, but Jan Shankar, I want to talk to you about the IT sector, which everyone is really watching with bated breath, because IT is literally one of our biggest achievements post liberalizations. $220 billion worth of exports every year. The United States is one of our biggest destinations for ITES, and you're seeing two things from the United States. In the last couple of hours, you've seen President Trump with all the IT majors in the US, all the big sharks of Silicon Valley, Tim Cook of Apple, Bill Gates of Microsoft, this guy from the guys from Alphabet, Sundar Pichai. Everybody was on that table around him, and he was asking them to invest more in the United States. That's one thread, right? And the other big thing that we saw was Laura Loomer, who's this very, very, core MAGA supporter, very close to Trump. She says that Trump is going to go after H-1B visas. She's going to go after the Indian IT sector, and you don't have to dial two, to get a voice in English. Basically saying that, all the call center things. It's, she's playing to the entire MAGA constituency that, oh, these Indians are coming, they're taking away our jobs and all. You see a larger plan that's unfolding here to get these IT companies to outsource away from India to nearshore into the United States?
Yeah. I'll take this question in two parts, but a little later, because I think Laura Lomer is a dinosaur. She's living in some other age completely, right? Because that kind of outsourcing is out, and no
Right.
one does that is out. We are in a different league altogether.
Yeah.
But I'll get back, what point Advaita was saying about India's, rise, the way I look at it, which we have actually all three we are talking the same language. You see, an important part of what's happening in India or around India or about India is that you have one USP, which is called trust. The
Right.
third world trusts you.
Yeah.
The global south, as it is today called, earlier because you are part of it, right? We were called third world. Today you call it the global south. It trusts you. Now let me highlight. Yesterday, a video came out from Burkina Faso. Burkina Faso, who knows where it is? If I ask, 99% will not know where Burkina Faso is. Burkina Faso is in the west coast of Africa.
Yeah.
It's above Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire. And, it used to be called Upper Volta once upon a time.
Yes.
It is a landlocked country. Do you know that we've done a $14 billion deal with them, India?
For grains. I saw that. Yeah.
For
Ibrahim
grains.
Traore, the dictator.
Traore, yeah. So we've done it. Why has it done? And he talks so much that India has come to us with trust. We can talk to them with as equals. I see this happening a little more as we go along. Okay. And interestingly, there are a lot of people in USA recognize it. People in USA recognize the fact that India has tremendous trust quotient in the global south.
Right.
And they have a trust deficit, huge trust deficit. They want India for that. If you don't get to resources are where? In Latin America and in Africa.
Yeah.
Latin America, they're lost. Huh? You have the equity today to go to Brazil. USA doesn't have. Other countries also. Chile, there are a lot of intrusion by China there. So if you want to regain many parts of this world, if America needs India, I keep coming back to this. Okay, now let's get to this IT sector business.
Right.
Okay, look, IT, India and USA are interdependent, completely interdependent. There are 19 global capability, 1,900 global capability centers of US companies in India. What do they do? They produce R&D.
Right.
It is no more, calling you want to know. That is gone. That is in Philippines, all that.
Right.
Okay, you've gone up the value chain, right? So those what they produce, they are R&D centers. Today, you are the leading non-fab semiconductor power. Now, people say, what is non-fab semiconductor power? Right. You don't have a fab. The fabs are coming. The moment that fabs come, you are going into a different direction. But semiconductor has to be packaged with a lot of software. I'll not get into the technology of that. And that is done here in Bangalore. That's the center which is coming up. People from all over the world want that packaging of the semiconductors to be done in Bangalore. The packaging is not physical, it is virtual.
Right.
It is software. Okay, the physical semiconductor is made wherever, and the packaging goes from here. So you are in a different league altogether. The
Right.
second part is you are a huge market. USA can't afford to lose this market. Okay, they'll hit your IT. What will they do? They'll put some non-tariff barriers, all that. What
Hmm.
will you do? You'll do the same thing. After all, you did that to China.
Right.
You squeeze a whole lot of apps and all out. And if tomorrow, just for argument's sake, tomorrow you ban Twitter and the government of India says no more Twitter, we'll get coup back. We'll fund
Right.
coup. Coup is there. The shell is there, no?
Yes.
Okay, I'll fund coup back and no more Twitter in India. What will happen?
They should actually do that, Shankar. They should bring coup
No,
back. I mean, it was
see,
terrible
that is,
for us to see it, yeah.
I
But that's a different,
completely agree with you. That is what the Prime Minister also said
yes, on 15th
during
of August.
right.
Yes.
Yeah, we should have our own Microsoft, we should have our own Google, all that. That's a different story. But
Right.
today, if we do that, what will happen to USA? What
Right.
will happen to all those fellows there?
Right.
And plus, tomorrow, if you start making all those, see, the danger is if they do this, if tomorrow you invest into your own IT, which is good,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
waiting. I want them to do this because then
Right.
you'll be forced to grow your own homegrown products. The day
Yes.
you do that,
Yeah.
your talent will be directed towards them, and that talent won't go to USA. USA
Right.
doesn't have Chinese talent. If it doesn't have Indian talent, it will collapse. I'm
Right.
talking of a collapse.
Right.
Okay. So do you think he's a fool? They're fools to do all that nonsense just because some idiot lady called Laura Loomer has spewed some nonsense. She doesn't know. She's ignorant.
Right.
Ignorance. I mean, and there are a lot of this redneck ignorance in coming out of USA.
Hmm.
The
Right.
way they think. So I think this is all there. At the same time, what we should, there are a lot of hotheads here also. Incidentally, there are a lot of hotheads here.
Right.
हम USA को छोड़ देंगे उनको throw them out, we'll go towards China. Why China is not giving you chocolates here,
Let's look at
right?
the
China is not good.
India-US
Yeah,
trade
yeah,
thing.
yeah. Please put that slide up. Yeah. Look at this. You see this orange line which I've shown here
Yeah.
is the number of people employed by in IT sector. It is,
Right.
and we have overtaken UK, South Korea, and all. We are the highest, and
Right.
maximum FDI inflow is here. Okay, for this sector, if you are going to misbehave with them, you lose jobs. These are direct jobs.
Yeah.
If these direct jobs go, what about the indirect jobs? It's going to get hit. They're going to get hit. You're going to get hit. It's mutual harakiri. And the
Right.
next thing I want to say is, your AI story, which
Yeah.
today people are talking AI, Sarvam, all that, will all
Right.
go unhinged if those people don't come. Yeah, you can take this off now, right? This is a huge issue which we have to understand, the interdependence. Why is
Hmm.
Sam Altman and OpenAI coming to India?
Yeah.
He's coming. He's going to open his centers here, right? It is profitable for them, there's no doubt.
Right.
But
Right.
it is important for you also. Now, if
Yes.
you start hitting that sector and all those fellows who are sitting around Trump, said, no, all those guys who were Microsoft, Sundar Pichai, all these fellows,
Yes. Yes.
they
Yes.
will say, yeah, where will we generate money from to give you?
But they've all
I mean,
given
it
big
is.
promises. No, we were talking about it.
Correct.
Tim Cook, how
Yeah,
much are
those
you going to
promises.
invest? 500 billion. How many?
वो
Sundar
ठीक
Pichai,
है.
100 billion.
तो उसमें क्या है, कुछ भी बोल दो. मैं भी बोल दूंगा ट्रम्प को 1 ट्रिलियन दे दूंगा यार. Right, but the fact is, if you have to make it happen, you
Right.
need a base from where to make it happen. You can't say I'll block IT sector of India and still make it happen. It won't
Hmm.
happen. Okay, and people at the end of the day, you have to realize one thing about USA. They will serve their own interests. They're there. You can't. They're not trustworthy. Agreed. You might rather trust a devil than USA. I completely agree to that. But the fact is,
Yeah.
that they're a resilient society.
Right.
They know how to get themselves out of problems.
Yes.
And that they have proven right from Second World War, Great Depression, Second World War, the 2008 financial crisis, or the Afghan wars which they have lost, everything, they've repositioned themselves, they reinvent themselves. And the way I look at it, What is happening today in America is damn good for America, because Americans have an innate sense of being able to come out of their own problems.
Right. Right.
So if Trump is creating a problem for America, it is good for them. And it is
Yeah.
good that all this is happening, that churn is happening. You will find that America 5-6 months or 1 year, 2 years down the line being completely different. And it is important for us to understand this change.
Hmm.
If you are looking at the optics of today, then you बस इतना ही है. अब अगले 5 महीने क्या करेगा, होगा नहीं होगा, be happy with it. But if you are looking at the long term, 2040, where you want to be a global power,
Right.
you have to see where your interests lie. Does it lie with a democratic America, a autocratic China, or an increasingly collapsing China, which is going to become toxic in days to come,
Yeah.
or a Russia which is limited in GDP?
Right.
All said and done, whether you like it or not, Russia is not a great economy. It's
No,
a
it is.
limited
Yeah.
economy.
Yeah. It's basically resources, a lot of
Resources, yeah.
It's a resource superpower. I mean, you can't
Yeah.
guarantee that. Yeah. It's
It might be whatever it is. It is not a superpower because of its economy. So if you're going to have great trade links with Russia, you cannot grow your economy.
right.
You will
need
get
the US
gas
to.
or
So that's a very valid point, Shankar, that if you want to become Viksit Bharat by 2047, you need the United States to enable your
yes,
rise. In a sense that this double engine sarkar Advaita that we frequently use in a federal and sense in India is actually one that could stand for India and the United States growing together, maybe not entirely at our advantage at times, because as General Shankar mentions, he doesn't trust the United States enough. Because they're so self-driven. I think they're driven a lot by self-interest, whereas Indians are not as driven by utter self-interest the way the United States is. And they are, of course, a very resilient society. But Advaita, since you are someone who's lived there, you've been educated in the United States, you've traveled there often. Give us a sense of what is going on there right now. What is the churn in U.S. society? I was just speaking to a friend in the morning to just understand what's going on there. And he says that, look, there is no fear about the IT sector being affected in that sense, but the big fear is job losses, because there's a lot of retrenchments going on. Everybody is afraid that, they might not have a job the next day. So a lot of this, anxiety is being fueled. And Trump is actually, in a sense, personifying this anxiety. He's building on this, capitalizing on this to do what he's doing right now. Your thoughts, Advaita?
That anxiety is across the board in the US. It's showing at the present time classic signs of the decline of a nation, of a great nation. And I have a lot of respect and affection for the United States, primarily because of my own personal connections there. So I'm not in any way anti-American, but I can also see through a lot of things. And if they are a resilient society, then even India is a very resilient society. In fact, we've had to put up with a lot more: 800 years of foreign invasions, 200 years of colonial rule. And we've come out of that. I think what the mistake that the world makes with India is that they think that we came around in 1947, which is not the truth, which is not who we are. We've been around way longer. Countries like China, we have had relationships with them way before 1947 and the New World Order and the United Nations. All of those things, we are civilizations. We're not just countries. We're civilizations. We have a long history. We have gone through the fire multiple times and we've emerged from it. So that's one thing in the cultural context, I think, which the world is starting to recognize now, that we aren't a democracy born in 1947, but we are actually a culture and a civilization which has long-standing ties with other nations and has been around for very long and has a certain temperament, primarily a temperament of not going out there and attacking other countries and trying to seize their land or change their culture or their people. And that's something that Prime Minister Modi has reflected even in 2025, that we're there to collaborate. We're not there to change you. We're not there to own you. And I think this is something that the world is beginning to recognize very effectively. And that's really, really important. The second thing is, I think, we're a little hard on our IT prowess. We usually look at it as chop shops, and that's how we classify it. And the American sitcom will call us like call center agents. But the needle has moved. I'll tell you, my uncle went in 1960 to work for IBM, as an Indian engineer. So it's not like, this boom has happened now. So
Right.
that's how far back our IT engineers were going to the United States. That's how long it. Remember, that was during the Cold War. Since then, the world opened up in the 90s, and a lot more Indian talent has gone there. And the finest minds, why do we call it the brain drain? Because the finest minds have gone. So we are not IT coolies anymore. We are actually the backbone, the IT backbone of Silicon Valley. And let's be clear, whatever you call the Americans like to make money. They're a capitalistic society. We keep them globally competitive with countries like China by providing them IT services that are world-class and don't cost as much. If American companies want to stay global and competitive, they need us. It's not just we needing them, but they need us. I tell it that our people will not have jobs if they come back to India. No, they will have jobs. Will they take a cut in lifestyle and things of that sort? Of course. Would it be a personal disappointment? Yes. But the bottom line is, it's not the end of the road. But what happens if America cannot compete with China when it comes to global domination? You see with AI, the way DeepSeek is coming up. So there is a tech war that's going on, and like General Shankar said, the kind of infiltration into American tech by the Chinese. So America needs us. So let's not think that we're on any back foot or we're so grateful to them because some of us get a bit of a lifestyle perk by living there. No, that's not what it's about. We bring something to the table.
Right, absolutely. Very, very, very important points, Advaita. And you summed it up so beautifully. The fact that it is India is the IT backbone of the United States, and it's not something that the US can kind of do without, especially when they're competing against China right now. So it's actually you're back to that triangle of India, the US, and China, and this is going to be the relationships. I mean, this triangle of relationships is going to be the most defining triangle of the first half of the 21st century, at least. You don't know how it plays out after that, when demographics and all that kicks in, and I think India is possibly going to be the only country left standing, because of our youth bulge. But I mean, that's of course a topic for another day. I think we should open the floor up to questions. There are a lot of questions here. Jan Shankar, I'm going to put in one over here from
whoever.
This some commentators are saying it will be very important to hit IT because IT services aren't tangible like goods and don't enter ports where custom duties can be levied. Is this accurate? I mean, he's talking of tariffs, because tariffs right now it's 50%. India has the highest tariffs on any country in the world, apart from Brazil, of course, for goods entering into the United States. In fact, India today has a very interesting cover on the victims of Trump's tariffs. It's a very, very good macro view of the Indian economy, how it's been affected. But the question here is that, will it hit IT, which is the topic of our discussion? Yes, no?
No, I don't think it'll happen at all, because you can't put your hands on IT.
Right.
Unlike trade, goods, this is all virtual. No? A lot of, and you can go other way. And like I said, if this is a two-way, it's like a butterfly switch here. You hit us, you get hit. It is like hitting yourself. And this will be even more dangerous to trifle with than normal goods and all that. Because if trust goes in this sector, there's a larger issue. If trust goes in this sector, right, a lot of things will happen which it will go out of control. So I don't think they will do all this.
Right. So here's another question from Arun Varghese, says that deeper integration with the US will ultimately backfire simply because of the power differential. So India should bite this pain and get really Atmanirbhar with less dependence on the US economic black hole. That's a very important point, Jan Shankar. I mean, coming back to this thing of we abandon the Kaveri engine, we go into GE, and then you have supply chain issues. We abandon coup, we go to Twitter, and then we worry, why does India not have a voice in the world? So that's an important point. You want to take that, first you, and of course Advaita.
I think let Advaita take it, then I'll take it.
Yes,
Yeah.
Advaita.
Well, I agree entirely. I think Atmanirbhar is the way forward. This doesn't mean being exclusionary or isolationist. That's certainly not
Right.
what we want to be, or kind of move in that direction. But it's very important that we do become Atmanirbhar. It's very important that we do reach out to countries in the African continent, for example, where there's a lot of tech talent, and help lift them up as well, and engage with them in a more meaningful way. So I think there are a lot of avenues open to India, and a lot of goodwill for India.
Right. Absolutely. It's India's moment now. There's someone's asking you, Shubhendu wants Advaita to try fake backgrounds and not blur your background. Oh, that's just a suggestion.
God. Must be one of my viewers only, because they can't help but not troll me on my production quality.
Yeah.
But
That's
there
okay.
are some comments. There are a lot of interesting comments. One
put them on.
one is Jan Shankar is that
Put it on. Put that on. Put the comment on.
US is declining, sir. It is in recession. That's one question. There's another one which says very similar question, which says that the US has a $1 trillion economy, and I think both are related questions. You want to take that, Jan Shankar? The fact that this huge US debt. You can start. I'll locate the other question.
That's okay. Look, the fact is, US might have a debt, but as far as the dollar is the reserve currency of the world, the debt doesn't matter.
Right.
It doesn't matter at all. They'll keep sanctioning, they'll keep taking the limit up, and it'll go. Right? People will say that this is US in recession, all that. Don't go by it too much beyond the point.
Right.
Okay, there's an innate thing. A lot of US economy is not within USA, it's outside USA.
Right.
It comes in, right? That's the second part of the story. You really want to understand the US economy and the way it functions. People say it's going to collapse. It's not going to collapse. I'm not an economist. I don't understand it this much. But you read a guy called Michael Pettis. Michael Pettis is an economist who's in Tsinghua University, China. Right. And he writes for Carnegie. And and his thought process was echoed by guys like Paul Krugman, who was a Nobel Prize in economics, Ken Rogoff, and the top economists.
Right.
He explains this business of how America takes on the debt of everyone.
Right.
Unless America, unless it is the economy what it is today, all of us are in trouble. There's no other economy which can take on the surplus of everyone else and be as a debtor nation. Right. India also can't do it. Okay, that's the unique position of America. It's a very complicated picture. Most of the time, we try to see American economy in simplistic terms.
Right.
It is not so.
Right.
And the simplest way I can put is, it's a sinkhole.
Yes.
America is the global sinkhole. If this sinkhole fails, the global economy will collapse.
It's what, almost a quarter of the global economy, right?
It'll collapse. It'll just collapse. So and no one will allow that to happen.
Right.
Even the Americans won't allow it to happen. And at another level, why do you think Trump is doing all this tariffs and all that? He's reducing the debt levels. Yes. Look, at the end of the day, whether tariffs are, he's getting money out of others or he's generating money from within, it doesn't matter. Tariffs are accumulating money into the American treasury. It is reducing his debt.
Right.
At a macro level, tariffs make a lot of sense. Macro level. Micro level is a different story. So there are many things happening. So let's not look at it very simplistically.
Right. So there's another question here on the diaspora. Basically, it says that 20 years ago, many of my Indian American friends thought they could shape the India-US partnership the way the Jewish Americans shaped Israel policy or the Cuban Americans shaped US-Cuba policy. That's something that we've been talking about as well, about the silence of the Indian diaspora in the United States. And I think a lot of it has to do with, one answer that I got was that, hey, the Indian diaspora they're very peace-loving, law-abiding, middle-class Indian citizens, the best of our society has gone there. They don't want to rock the boat. They don't want to be seen and be targeted. But you want to take that, Advaita, the silence of the diaspora when this entire war was raging on, this tariff war between India and the US?
Yes, I think we are passive. Especially our diaspora there is passive, and I think we have to be more strategic about these things. I don't necessarily think that not coming to the forefront doesn't mean that they were not active behind the scenes.
Right.
Sometimes with a president like Trump, who has a massive ego, anything public will reaction. Any kind of maneuvering that's done in the back will probably have more of an influence, because he's the kind of person who wants to look like the big back man on campus, right? And that's how he projects. So I don't think we should assume that nothing was done. It was not done in an overt way, that's for certain. But the backpedaling that Trump is displaying right now, I read somewhere that he had some.
You lost her?
Advaita's frozen, but there's another.
Okay, let me take this across. Let me take this point. You see, the diaspora in America largely supported Trump in this election, and Trump has behaved
diaspora because it was traditionally Democrat. And
so a lot of them are probably feeling sheepish. I know it personally, and hence they are not able to come out and talk. But they would be doing something behind the scene. But I look at this entire story in a slightly different manner, because to connect it with the Cubans and the Jewish, we have to understand Cubans because of the proximity, and the Jewish because of their links, from long. The Jewish and the Jewish American link started long back, somewhere in the 1930s last. And the kind of skills they brought in at that point of time, they had a different approach and they had a different impact on the American society at that point of time. And they could have a lot of influence on the American society and policy accordingly, especially towards Israel. And the Cuban Americans, especially towards the littorals around America. But you are now looking at an Indian diaspora, which is in two parts. One is the diaspora who are migrant who will come back or who are going. That's it. The second is the second and the third generation Americans. Now they have started coming up. Please understand, you have a vice president whose wife is Indian. You had a vice president of Indian origin. You had 2-3 governors of Indian origin. There are people in Democrats and in Republicans of Indian origin who are coming up. There are people in this administration who are of Indian origin. There are people in this administration who are of Hindu origin. See, societal changes take time to occur. They don't happen overnight. If you go by only the Trump phenomenon or Biden phenomenon, then we are horribly wrong. It will take time. Okay? This thing will happen. The Indian influence in American politics has grown, it's slowly growing up. One day it will burst. Okay? As the affluence and the influence of the American, Indian origin Americans increases, things will change. Now, here there are two issues to it. One is there will be many of them who will be more American than Americans. More loyal to the king than the king themselves. But equally, there will be enough. And they'll be nasty to you. Right? And that's true not only in America and everywhere. I can give you personal examples of a chap from Pondicherry who behaved more French than French were with me. A fellow was a native Tamilian. That's a different story. So these things happen, and the flip also happens. There will be many people who will like to increase the connect between India and USA, and this will keep expanding. And as Indian economy grows up, and the American economy, wherever it goes, it will grow up. It can't go down because that's the way America is structured. you will have to have new balances as we go along, a new
Right.
set of outlooks.
Hmm.
You can't be rigid and today or day before yesterday's thing. So you'll see this change, and we have to handle this change, right? Whoever thought that we will be talking like this, say 20 years back,
Right.
the our language today and the way we are equating ourselves and saying, look, we have influence in American society or not. Today we are talking. 20 years back, could you talk that? No,
Yeah.
you couldn't. So a lot of this change is happening, and we have to be alive to this change. That's the way I look at it.
Right. We have to be alive to that change, Nita. I think we have time for just one last question. I'm going to take this to Advaita. Advaita, Pramod Sinha wants to know if the US can arm twist Indian body shopping IT service industry, HB and L1B visa. I worked in Infosys. This is the biggest concern right now. The H1B visas are going to be, they're going to crack down on that, and that's up for negotiations right now. But I think a lot of people have tried to protect the H1B visas, including Elon Musk, who incidentally, I was very surprised not to see Elon Musk in that gathering of IT leaders. With
Sam Altman was there.
Sam
Elon,
Altman, can you imagine?
who's
Yes.
Elon's biggest rival. So Trump does
Right.
this at every level, right?
Right. It's not just us. Exactly.
Yeah, he does it at every level. This is what he's about. So he won't invite Elon, but he'll get Sam Altman there. He'll go. He'll chum up with Asim Munir. This is classic Trump. So enjoy the show, guys, because that's what you're getting. And then when the new president comes in a little less than 3.5 years, you're going to say, oh, it was so much more fun when Trump was around, just in terms of the narratives and the debates and the conversations. But yes, there is genuine insecurity about what's going to happen with the H-1B visa. And that has been going on prior to all of this also. If you recall, online there was, and this was also when Vivek Ramaswamy got involved in it and faced a lot of heat from MAGA. Wherein he was seen as siding with India and not necessarily with American interests. And people like Laura Loomer, she's a kook, but she has Trump's ear. That's just what it is. I mean, she's the one who went out and said, the Haitians are eating dogs and pets, and I mean the crazy kind of conspiracy theories. And there's a lot of resistance to people like her within the Trump administration who don't feel comfortable with the kind of influence she has on him and the access she has on him. I guess the influence can come and go because that's just Trump, but certainly she has access to him. And it'll all depend on what Trump sees as being convenient for him in terms of the midterms coming up. Does he need to crack down on the H-1Bs and promise those jobs to Americans? But the fact also is that Americans are not really mainland America, what you call the heartland America, working America, which was originally blue but then turned red this time around for Trump. They're not looking really at IT jobs. They're looking at factories. They're looking at that kind of job, those kind of jobs that have left their areas and gone to other countries to come back. So they're not really looking at IT. They're looking at other kind of things. So if a Tim Cook says, I'm going to set up a factory in America for iPhones, that's the kind of pressure that Trump would probably, place on him, not necessarily for IT jobs in Silicon Valley, but set up a factory to build iPhones.
Manufacturing job.
Michigan, exactly. So that's really where it's at, because they're just too dependent on us for IT skills to stay globally competitive, and that's the bottom line.
Right, absolutely. And I think I've just put this one last question because it talks about the Indian IT sector as well. General Shankar, China started innovation, grew its IT industry as per the Western companies only after they got sanctioned. Interesting. Sanctions will motivate the Indian IT companies to innovate and spend on R&D. This is something that there's criticism of the Indian IT sector, that you're doing everything for the United States, you're not creating products for India, and therefore this is our, if you can call it, the Pokhran 2 moment, where we can start investing on our own products, Indian R&D, Atmanirbhar products, that kind of thing. Your take, Shankar?
Yeah, I agree. We need to go to a place where we are dependent on ourselves, in IT holistically. Today,
Right.
you're a software giant. You need to be a hardware giant also. And
Right.
unless you have your own hardware and you have your own software, you have your own platforms and you have your own products, we will go nowhere, right? We can take this question off. We'll right. Now, the point is that this is a fact. This realization we have not had. If you go back to the 90s, how did our IT industry grow? It grew without the government's interference or even knowledge.
Right.
If our government had put its foot into the way our IT industry grew in the 90s when it started growing with emphasis coming in and all this Wipro and all entering this thing, we wouldn't have grown. We wouldn't have been where we are. They would have squashed it.
General Shankar, the IT industry grew because it was working after government office hours.
Office hours, yeah. It was, the IT industry grew not because of the government, because the government was not there.
Right.
Right? Unfortunately, once the government came into this IT sector, they put in all kinds of things, and thereafter we couldn't grow. We couldn't scale up.
Right.
This problem is not here only, anywhere. You don't have original products in this country because the government doesn't allow you to do that. It doesn't matter whether it's Modi government or Manmohan Singh government. Our government is like that.
Right.
Okay. Why should it take 12 years for a prime minister to say that we should have our own products?
Yes.
Did it take 12 years? Why couldn't he say this in the first year of his being a prime minister? By now you would have had that product. Because our thinking is not that.
Right.
I know. I know the prop. I'm now taking you off on a tangent since you know it, and Advaita can, unfortunately, she doesn't know my background from that point of view. You know it. I had to struggle, walk on my head, to get that Dhanush and that attacks in.
Yeah.
Today, everyone talks of attacks, and all that nonsense.
Right.
But to make that indigenization happen, I had to do everything. To make our country self-sufficient in artillery ammunition, I had to
Right.
crawl everywhere. And I had to crawl through all corridors. And I had to speak to chaprasis also to move my files. Right? And then it moved. People used to say, this guy is a mad guy here. But unfortunately, that is what is required in this country. We don't have enough mad people.
Yes.
Right? And the guys who can make things happen, these Mahindras and Tatas, and across the board, these chaps are in for it for profit only. You tell me all these big corporates, whether it is L&T, whether it is Tata's, Advani, Ambani, ye, wo, sab, have they done any original invention? Have they put money on the table for R&D?
On R&D. Yes, that's right. That's a big
Okay.
concern.
I would kind of back
Yes.
Adani a little bit on this, because at least he's building the ports and he's doing a lot of national infrastructure work.
I am not against whatever you're saying. I respect all these people because they drive our larger economy. But the problem with all these fellows is they have not done anything original for us.
Right.
Okay. The fundamental difference between what has happened in USA and China, China, a chap like Jack Ma could build what he built and group completely.
Yeah.
Okay. Did anyone do that here originally? After all, Ant Group almost shook the American industry completely till the whole thing got hacked for different reasons. Right? Do we have that kind of a thing? You don't. Why? Because our culture is not there. I'm hopeful at this juncture that our Prime Minister changes this culture. At least he's enunciated it with that Sudarshan Chakra and all that we've spoken. Right? Atmanirbharta. If we get that, damn good. I'm hoping if to see this happen in in the next 5-10 years. But if it doesn't happen, we are done. We can keep doing all this low-end jobs.
What a fascinating discussion, General Shankar. It's always such a pleasure to talk to you, Advaita, because the perspectives that you bring are so different, but yet so enriching to this discussion that we've had on a Sunday morning. And I'm sure everyone who's watching agrees with me. And I must quickly add that General Shankar is working on hypersonic artillery shells. These are basically artillery shells that are like mini BrahMos missiles, except that they are fired from artillery shells, like the artillery guns, like the one that General Shankar has behind him. And that is the kind of futuristic, cutting-edge technology that General Shankar is working on. He's, of course, former Director General Indian Artillery, but he's now a professor at the IIT Madras, and that is where he's working to develop products. So when he talks about creating Indian products, he's actually got skin in the game. He's trying to do that, and I'm sure a couple of years from now we will see that our ramjet-powered artillery rounds being part of the Sudarshan Chakra, defensive shield that the Prime Minister spoke about. But thanks so much, Advaita, Shankar. It's been such a pleasure talking to you this morning. And I think the takeaways for this are very interesting. The fact is that we need the United States. It is a relationship. It might have hit a kind of a roadblock with the in the last couple of days, but it seems to be that the relationship is moving on. There will be a Modi-Trump summit at some point, who knows, and things will get back to normal. The tariffs, of course, that's open to negotiations. There will be a trade deal also, who knows how that plays out, but we should keep calm, carry on, and play the long game like the Chinese have done. Thank you very much for this very enriching discussion.
Thank you.